Hey guys, so the last couple of days we've been talking about the different theories or perspectives of personality. We talked about Freud and the psychoanalytic perspective. Yesterday we talked about the trait perspective and all the different types of characteristics and behavior patterns that we can witness in people. Today we're going to talk about two perspectives. And they're smaller in terms of quantity of stuff in them. So one of them is the humanistic perspective. And the humanistic perspective, it comes out of the anger and resentment people felt towards the psychoanalytic perspective. So remember, Freud was like, we have these inner dark urges from our id that drive us to, trying to fulfill our pleasure versus what we should do. And people kind of got sick of the idea of that deep down inside we're all bad. And that's what the humanistic perspective was born. It's kind of the opposite. It's like deep down inside we're all good, or we're all trying to be better. And this is brought to you by two guys, Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers, and you see his name right there, Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers. And you probably have heard of Abraham Maslow before, especially if you know this, the hierarchy of needs. So the hierarchy of needs is something that he created, and it says that we are driven to fulfill these needs. That's what we're motivated by. And he says that that's what makes up our personality. Our personality are driven by our need to be the best version of ourselves. And so we're going to talk more about the hierarchy of needs. Where am I? Hierarchy of needs when we talk about what motivates us. If you can see this a little clearer, there are, if you don't know this, I think you talk about it in English, but if you don't know this, maybe sketch this down. At the very bottom, we are driven to reach our physiological needs, food, water, things that keep us alive. After that, then we can focus on safety. After that, we can focus on finding love and being like belonging to the group, and then focus on self-esteem. And at the very top, we have self-actualization, which is the best version of ourselves. So Abraham Maslow was like, let's not focus on being bad like Freud would. Let's focus on being self-actualized. Let's focus our personality. What makes up our personality is maybe they missed a step here. Maybe they need to solve something else down here before they can reach self-actualization, because self-actualization is the goal. That is the best version of ourselves. The best version of our personality is when one becomes self-actualized. And then Carl Rogers, he kind of adds on to that. And he says, okay, well, to be self-actualized, to have good, healthy growth, you need age. A-G-E. A is acceptance. You need someone that's going to love you and support you no matter what. We call it acceptance. He calls it, it's a fancier word, but unconditional positive regard, meaning someone that's going to love you unconditionally, and they're going to regard you positively, unconditionally. So someone that's accepting you. Hopefully your parents fits that role. But there are people whose parents love them conditionally. I will love you if you are a good student. I will love you if you make the same choices I do. I will love you if you vote this way. I will love you if you marry this type of person. And you don't do those things, the acceptance might not be there. How can you possibly be the best version of yourself if you don't have someone that loves you and supports you? G in age is genuineness, meaning you're not fake. You are a real person. What you see is what you get. And there's nothing fakey about you, and you're genuine. And E is empathy. That caring for others and caring about others, and being empathetic and understanding of people's feelings and emotions, that will have you have the healthy growth that you need in order to be self-actualized. So Rogers way over there, he talks about just physiological and safety and self-esteem needs. Carl Rogers is like, yeah, you need that as well, but you also need age, acceptance, genuineness, and empathy. And like I said earlier, this focuses on how people are basically good, and we are endowed. We want to be self-actualized. We want to be the best versions of ourselves, and sometimes we struggle with that. But if we can, be accepted, be genuine, have empathy, and then all the If we can fill all those steps on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then we can be the best version of ourselves. So this talks about self-esteem and the idea of our self-concept. The self-concept is like, if you're worthy, you feel worthy. And that's a huge part of our personality of, do you feel like you have worth? Do you have self-esteem? Do you love yourself? Do you feel like you have the ability to do things? If you have a positive self-concept, obviously you're going to be more confident in yourself. You're going to try more things. You will see your experiences, like maybe there's a failure in the past. You're going to see that more as a growing opportunity as opposed to not a growing opportunity, like a failure. People with positive self-concepts are more likely to do well in school. They're more likely to have close, meaningful relationships, and they're more likely to be satisfied in career and in like marriage. People that have a negative self-concept, they don't think highly of themselves. Maybe they have a low self-worth. They're more likely to abuse alcohol, drugs, have unsatisfying relationships, things like that, or maybe not long-lasting relationships. This term has popped up on the last few AP tests, self-efficacy. This is not self-esteem. Self-esteem is like, I like myself. Self-efficacy is you knowing you have the ability to do something. Like, I know that I can do this math problem. I know that if I worked really hard, I can do this. I have the ability to do something. So this has nothing to do with like thinking that you're smart. It's thinking that you can do it. Thinking that you have the ability to do something. So this little picture right here is self-efficacy. When it comes to like self and the group with culture, I don't really know why they're bringing culture into this section of the class, but it just talks about like that self-esteem and that self-efficacy sometimes is viewed differently depending on what type of culture you're from. So like the United States, it's a very individualistic culture. We put our own goals and our own self-esteem higher than that of the group's goals, or the self-concept of the group. A collectivist group, like a lot of Asian countries, even some Hispanic countries have more of a collectivist culture, especially Asian countries have more of a collectivist culture. They're going to focus on the group's goals, the group's self-worth, the group's esteem more than their own, more than themselves. The we is bigger than the me in terms of collectivism. And I have a couple of descriptors of these things down here in case you wanted more. Okay, so that was humanistic. That's like what determines your personality is you're going through the hierarchy of needs. What do you have? Unconditional positive regard, and that's going to affect your personality. So people that maybe something's lacking in their personality, maybe something's not being met. Maybe they have, their safety needs aren't being met. Their love and acceptance needs are not being met. The social cognitive perspective, if you look at the word social, this is like culture, this is society, and cognitive is thinking. So it's how our culture changes our thinking, and then how that would affect your personality. Here's reciprocal determinism. I'm not going to play this. I am going to put a link in the assignment so you can play this, because if I played this through here, I'd be breaking copyright. I can't do that. So I can send you a link. It's Khan Academy this is called reciprocal determinism, which I really like this term. This basically means our personality chooses our environment. That environment then changes who we are. And the fact that we're in the environment means that we affect the environment back. So I always think of like clubs in high school, like maybe book club or FFA or band. You might pick one of those clubs or activities because your personality, you're like, I really like to do that. I like to be outside. I like helping animals, or I like musical instruments. I'm a musical type of person. Maybe you pick one of those, and because you're in that group, because you're in FFA, or because you're in band, it kind of changes who you are a little bit. It changes your personality a tad. And I think we can all account to that. We know someone that's been, they've gotten a little bit more band since they've been in band 4 years, or people in theater, they've gotten a little bit more theater, people that have gotten a little bit more FFA while they've been in that group. So they pick the group, they pick the social part, they pick their culture, and then the culture changes who they are, changes their cognition, changes the way they think about the world. And that's what reciprocal means. I change you, you change me. And that determinism, it's like determining your thought patterns, determining your personality, your behavior. So you pick band, band changes you. And you, because you're in band, you change band because you are part of that group. You're part of that culture. And if the culture is changing you and you're part of the culture, you're changing someone else. You're the culture for someone else. So you pick band, band picks you, you change it, it changes you. That's reciprocal determinism, how society and the environment that we are in shapes us and how we shape it back. Albert Bandura, do you remember this name? Albert Bandura? Oh, I don't know where it is. It's up there somewhere. Albert Bandura, that's Bandura's Bobo doll. Do you remember? He's the guy that came up with reciprocal determinism. Remember Bandura, but you watch the kids get violent with the Bobo doll, and you're more likely to do it. Monkey see, monkey do. He's the guy that talked about how society, how what we see shapes who we are. If you see violence, you're more likely to be violent. Well, he's also talking about reciprocal determinism. So he did both of those things. He's very big into like external events and how society and what we see around us, our environment, shapes us and changes us and determines who we are. So there's another term, and this is not Albert Bandura. This is Julian Ritter, who I honestly don't know if that's a boy or a girl. Julian Ritter. And Julian Ritter talked about, do we have control over the environment? The environment that we just picked, the reciprocal determinism thing, that band or FFA. Do we control our environment, or does our environment control us? And is there such thing as fate? Do we have control over our destiny, or is it just external circumstances that have control over our destiny? And Julian Ritter came up with the term external locus of control and internal locus of control. And you can kind of see which one is which. Internal is I control my own fate. External is outside forces, maybe luck, maybe destiny, maybe some sort of plan controls my fate. So you can probably guess which one leads to more happiness, leads to more action, and it's internal. Internal locus of control. If you feel like you control your own destiny, you feel like you have control of factors in your life, and you're more likely to do something about it. Like, I control my own happiness, so you can have the power to be happy. I control my own success, so you can do something about it. It gives you free will. External locus of control, no matter what I do, it's either determined, or it's fate, or it's luck. And what's the point? If my happiness is not controlled by me, that's pretty depressing. If my success is not determined by me, why try? It's all the same. It's going to end up either way. So people with an internal locus of control tend to be happier, have I had to use the word better personality, but it changes their outlook on life, and they typically have a better outlook on life if you feel that you have free will, if you feel that you have control over your destiny. So there's another term called learned helplessness, which I posted another link because I usually do this activity that's in the video. It's like 6 minutes long. I do it in class. Unfortunately, we don't have class today. So I found it, and then I usually do it in class. It's an anagram activity, which is what this says down here. And it's based off of this research with the dog. So I know this is really sad, but they took a dog, and you see down on the screen that little electric floor thing right here. They held a dog down to an electric floor and turned the shock on. No matter how hard the dog struggled, it couldn't avoid the pain. Kind of like being put in an environment that's a really negative environment that you can't escape. Maybe your household, maybe your school, maybe your social class, maybe something. If your environment is negative and you can't escape it. Well, what happened when the dog was released? They took the restraints off the dog. They turned the switch back on to electrify the floor again. The dog could easily escape the pain if the dog just went over to the other side, just, moved over. But the dog didn't. The dog sat there and took the shocks. That's learned helplessness. If you are given only opportunities for failure, and you only know failure, and you're never given a chance to succeed, when you are given a chance to succeed, you don't do anything. If you're given the chance to succeed, you don't do anything. You lose, what's the point? You just sit there and take it. And so, think of kids that are like, maybe their home life is really bad, or maybe their school is really bad. Maybe it's just the living conditions, the environment they live in is really bad, but then they're given this opportunity to get out of it. Maybe to leave or go to a different school or, work hard and be successful or something. And they don't take it. And you're like, well, how could they not? Because of learned helplessness. They were never given a chance to be successful. So they kind of were a beaten down dog. And when given a chance to avoid pain, they didn't do anything. They just sat and took it. It's really sad, but it's kind of how the environment kind of shaped who these people were. The environment only gave them failures. And when the environment gave an opportunity to be successful, you think they would take it, but they just learned to be, what's the point? It's fate, and, I have bad luck and there's no point of trying. And so they don't. Okay. Those are the two perspectives that we were going to talk about in class. And I think that's all we want to cover today. So we have a review tomorrow, which is Thursday. We have a review for the development and personality test, which is on Friday. So development, remember, is Piaget, Erikson, Kohlberg's moral development, Freud's sexual development. I feel like I'm missing something. And then we have personality, psychoanalytic, trait, humanistic, social cognitive thing that we just talked about. That's all going to be on the test on Friday. So until then, I will see you later. Bye.